Welcome to Systemize Your Success. I'm Dr. Steve Day, and today it is my absolute pleasure to invite Matt Elwell to the podcast. He is director of the Elite Closing Academy, sales trainer and coach. He's the author of an amazing book called Open with a Close, and is also a public speaker to add. He's on a mission at the moment to change the way the world sells and to help business owners get quick wins, gain more clients and grow their businesses. And Matt is somebody that I've actually known for a number of years and I've worked with during that time. So we have probably a lot to talk about. And I know Matt has a wealth of knowledge, experience, and just incredible insights, which I think you're going to find incredibly valuable today.
So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success.
Hi, Matt.
Morning. How are we doing? Afternoon now.
It is afternoon, yeah. Depends on what time people are listening to it, I guess. But yeah, for us it is anyway. Great to have you on the show. This has been, for me, a long time coming. I'm really excited we finally got this penciled into the diary, because I've been wanting to talk to you on the podcast, and for my listeners to get a little taste of what you do. Because as I mentioned in the intro, I've worked with you. I've been through your coaching programs. I've implemented so much of what you've taught in my business, and it totally changed the way I looked at sales, from being this dirty thing I tried to avoid to something I genuinely enjoy. And that is a transformation I never would have thought possible. So I want to start just saying a massive thank you for writing your book in the first place, because that's how I found all about you. But B, actually, doing what you do and being so passionate about it, because it really is. It's so needed for so many small business owners who believe that what they do can really change the world, but they're afraid to actually ask people for money to do it. And in that, they can't then sustain themselves and grow their business and all that comes with actually having a profitable business. So yeah, first of all, thanks very much.
Thanks, mate. And by the way, I completely fluked being a solution to that problem, because I owned a small family business when I was 22. And so I'm really passionate about SMEs. When I first started a coaching company, 2017, I initially thought that's what I was going to do, which would be like a business growth coach for small to medium-sized enterprises. The truth was, Steve, in 2008 to 2010, when we went through the credit crunch, certainly here in the UK, this is when the banks went bust, by the way. Like, it wasn't just a blip, it was like the banks ran out of money, which is a bit of a problem. My brother, my dad and I, we just invested quite a lot of money in our small to medium-sized enterprise, nearly £1 million. So when the banks went bust, it was like, what are we going to do? And really sadly, we got through it. It was tough, but we got through it and came out the other side. But sadly, quite a lot, certainly where I'm based in central England, West Midlands, central Birmingham, there were a lot of business owners, small business owners in my industry alone at the time, which was tiles and bathrooms, the retail sector. So many of my competitors, and some of them were my friends, didn't make it through. And a lot of my social circle were small businesses, trades, small services, that kind of stuff. And a lot of them didn't make it through. And Steve, the thing was, and this is the fluke, for many of them, when I asked them, well, what was your sales strategy during your hardest times? And they were like, I didn't have one. I just chucked a load of money at marketing, and eventually I ran out of money and ran out of customers, and then I lost my business. And it was like light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh, everybody I speak to has got a marketing strategy. Everybody I speak to has got an accountant that looks after finances. Everybody I speak to has got all these other things in place. And yet if you say to people, what's your sales strategy? They just look at you as if you're from another atmosphere. And that was when it dawned on me that maybe my experience is good, bad, indifferent. And the process that I'd create to sell, maybe that was something that I could start to teach people, which I now do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you probably asked me that same question right at the beginning of our journey. And I think for me, I really saw the sales process as an extension of, or really part of, marketing. They were really the same thing. Is like I say, you just get more leads and that's how you make money. But that's not even half of it, in my opinion now. And now my understanding is a lot broader and more complete. So maybe that would be a nice place to really dig into a little bit deeper in, like, what is the fundamental difference in your eyes between that marketing element of the business and then the sales, and then the handover obviously then to the
Love it.
sales. That's I think, like, from working with you, that is where you open my eyes to a different way of looking at it. And there's actually quite a lot of integration between those different elements, but I'll leave you to explain it. You're
Yeah,
the
mate, love it. I think so. The way I see the world in business is like you generate leads through marketing. So I call those marketing qualified leads, or MQLs. And then, like, they generally, you might create some awareness, might bring a few, qualified opportunities to have a conversation. But then there's all the other ones that are generated through marketing, but nobody does nothing actually happens. So that's where we come in. It's like what I call sales qualified leads. It's when the computers have failed and it's time for the human beings to take over. That's kind of where my philosophy comes in. And I believe actually the small to medium sized enterprises, just the businesses actually that I deal with around the globe now, the companies that tend to get the best results put lots of energy and effort into generating opportunities via their marketing and invest the same amount of money in all the human beings that didn't buy anything over here, that are still in the pipeline, that are just one conversation away with another person from making an informed decision or progressing, through the process. So I think for me, it's very much about like having a commitment to having conversations with people that you already know is a key thing.
Yeah, I remember on day one of the training, you got me up in front of the audience in a very nice way. I volunteered, by the way, if anyone listening. And Matt asked,
On the neck.
yeah, that's it, get up here. No, and Matt asked me, how big's your list? And so I said, oh, it's got X number of thousand people on it. It goes, great. And how many of those have you sold to? Like, how many of those are clients? How many have you helped? And then I came up with a figure, and then I was like, right, how many on the list you think of actually, not just time, where they're just like fillers, if you like. And that's came up with a number. And then we did the math on like what my current lifetime value of a client is, times by the number of people that are in my list that I've even spoken to in the past, that maybe they've reached out to me in some way, shape, or form, but I've just done a terrible job of actually serving them. And these are really using your words here, Matt, like, because it's just, and is this almost a vocabulary that I got from working with you and reading your book and coming on the training, allowed me to look at sales in a different way, and allowing me to say, look, those people have made the effort to come and find me in some way, shape, or form, download something, send me an email, come on a webinar, whatever. And then I've just let them sit there. And I think that's one of the key things you say at the beginning was just you don't need more marketing. Most companies, you just need more professional, persistent, and purposeful selling. And again, I'm borrowing your words, but and I think, so maybe we can expand on that. What would some of the practical steps of, like, right now today, how would they actually make a significant difference to this for themselves?
Yeah, love it. Well, I think the first thing you've got to remember is that when you generate a lead, that is actually a human being. A lead is a human being. A business is a person. Businesses have groups of people in it. And I think never lose sight of that, because behind the lead is a person that has feelings, that might be having a bad time in their life, in their business. And your service could be the thing that helps them overcome that problem or challenge or pain. So I think never to lose the emotional aspect of that is important. And then I think the second thing really around this is to write down, like, if you get your computer with a phone on it now out and you go to contacts, if you're watching this, like, work out how many contacts have you got on here. Like, let's say it's 1,500, and you write 1,500 down, and you go, right, how many people have got following me on all social media. So LinkedIn, Instagram, I don't know what else are you on, Threads, YouTube, whatever, all of that, add that up. Let's say that's 10,000. It might be 10, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the figure is, just write it down. And then you go, how many people are receiving emails from me? Add that number in. And then once you got that figure, and by the way, I did this last week in one of the trainings that you're chatting about, and my number at the moment is just under 50,000, right? So you go, well, hang on a minute. In my mini economy of people that have taken some kind of micro commitment, shown some kind of interest in sales, like you said, maybe they've seen me on a Facebook ad or looked at the open with a closed book and thought, I'll check that, whatever it might be. You go, if you had 50,000 opportunities, I'm saying before you start creating a load more new opportunities, why don't you spend a bit of time and energy and money and focus on out those 50,000 in my case, how many of them are actually looking genuinely to invest in learning how to sell or training or something right now? And this isn't exact science, but what I've noticed is that 10% of the 10%, it will give you a feel for it. So 10% of 50,000 is like 5, and 10% of 5,000 is like 500. Like, imagine if I just had 10% of 500, so 10% of the 10% of the 10%. Imagine I just got 50 right here, right now, who are going, I need sales, like, otherwise my business is dead. Well, it's really important that you speak to those people, that you generate awareness, that a great way of doing it is to use your voice, use video, use phone calls. Like, you've got to speak to people as much as you can, because otherwise you'll have people, humans, that want what you do, that have shown some kind of interest in the past, not do business with you, and somebody horrible in your industry will end up closing the lead that you generated in the first place. And to me, that's criminal. So, like, do that math. And then, you know, even if you started with like 25 voice notes a day, but I often go into Messenger if I'm speaking at an event and somebody else is driving. I'll go, right, I'm just going to get on Messenger, and in an hour I can do like 50 or 60 of these. I go, hey, thanks for following me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm in the car for the next hour. Send me a little thumb if you want a 5-minute conversation. I'll ask you a few questions. If I can help you, I will. I might be able to send you something for free. We can have a chat, whatever. Just send me a thumb. You wouldn't believe how many people go, yeah, I'm up for it, like, talk to me. And what I find, Steve, is every time my team, me, make that effort to connect with people we already know, every time something positive happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it sounds so easy, but there is, having been there, a real barrier sometimes to taking that action.
Yeah.
And I now know, because I've thankfully broken through that barrier. But I think it's the same barrier that I experience with my clients in my business about, say, hiring their first member of staff or delegating work or whatever. Like, as business owners, we've just got to accept that these things are challenging because we haven't done them enough to make them easy. And it's not about being good at it. It's just about being experienced at doing it lots and enough to make it something that is just part of what you do.
Yeah, I think there's something I've been studying recently, which is really interesting as well. There's obviously, look, there's a non-physical side to us. So, you know, exploring what you're scared of, what holds you back, all that kind of stuff is important for sure. There's also a really interesting thing that we have atoms that haven't lit up yet, that are ready to light up. And the thing is, if you just play it so safe that you keep stopping yourself from doing stuff in business because you're scared or you're worried, which is all justifiable, and I get it. The problem is that you have parts of you that don't ever light up. So, you know, now you know that, you're like, well, sometimes you've got to turn the courage dial up a little bit as a business owner. Sometimes you've got to do things that you haven't done before to light things up inside, new memories, new structures, new thoughts, new dreams, new atoms. We've got atoms that are just waiting for us to turn it on. So, like, nobody said that being great at business or just being a great human being is easy. It isn't meant to be easy. I don't know why, but it's just not. It's not meant to be easy. But the good news is that we get to create the business we want and the life we want. And the word is to create. And I think, you have to be prepared to go to places that are new and to be curious and to give it a go, test it, find out what it feels like. My wife loves Kes to pieces, Kerry. We go dress shopping and she has to try it on to see if it fits. Business is the same. Try it on and see if it fits.
Totally. And if it doesn't, you can try another one on. So, I think that getting over that fear and actually just picking up the phone is the first challenge. And I think the second challenge that I know will be in people's heads if they've not got through this barrier yet is, that's all good, but then what do I say?
Yeah.
And I think that you do this very well. So just to preface it a bit, I mean, the book is called Open with the Close that I read quite a few years ago now. And I think that's a interesting not interesting, that's a good place to start. Why is it titled that? And what does it actually mean when you are making these connection sort of conversations?
Yeah, great question. It means that humans purchase results, and no one really cares about whether you've done it before for somebody else, or they don't care about your testimonials, or they don't really care. They don't care about any of that. It's like, can this person deliver what I need to get a result is the thing that matters. So what I learned a long time ago, Steve, is salespeople that are constantly trying to explain everything and talk the buyer through how it all works. They're the ones that lose. If you're having to explain in great detail complexities to somebody who doesn't understand complexities, unfortunately, you are going to lose them very quickly. So the open with the closed philosophy is to trust what's in their mind, the vision that they've got of the result, and to find out what that is first. So what result would you need to get at the end of investing with us for this to be a great investment for you is a good question to ask in sales, and allow the possible buyer to start to explain what they can see inside their body and inside their mind. And don't stop until you're clear on their vision of a result for them. Don't try and make them right or wrong because they don't understand it yet. Of course they don't understand it, because if they did understand it, they wouldn't be talking to you. So just find out what that is, get the mental picture in their mind, and then understand when they get that result, what does it mean to them? What does it solve? Who else does it benefit? Do a great job there first. That's the open with the close. Start with the end in mind. And if once you're super clear on what the end looks like for them, if your product or service can turn that vision into a reality, then continue in the conversation and take it through a process. If it can't, my advice is don't try and go away and come up with something that does. It's better to send them to a stakeholder than for you to completely change your whole business again just for one person to try and get them over the line. I made that mistake when I first started out. It was a painful mistake. It's to own what you can own, be great at what you can be great at, and then deliver a service that delivers on your promises, under promise, over deliver every single time, but stop moving the goalposts all the time. And I think once you master that process, as I know you have, then you grow and scale quicker, you get rid of time wasters, you do what you're great at much more, and you just get more people buying. So it's like that's what the philosophy means in a nutshell.
Yeah, fantastic. I was smiling as you were saying that, because back in the early days, I did exactly that. You get on the phone, and I guess part of the problem was I hadn't really sat down and thought, and this is, I think, one of the homeworks that everyone's got to do before they really get into selling or running a business in general, is actually who do you, first of all, who do you help? Who is it that you actually can help the most in the easiest possible way, and how do you help them? And I didn't have those two answers. So I get one business owner who was at one end of the scale, another one at the other end of the scale, and they both needed different things. But I was like, well, I'm intelligent. I can probably figure it out when I get them on. I'll just say yes. And that sort of, in the early days, I can't remember where I read it, but it's you say yes, figure it out later sort of attitude. And actually, that is not a great move. It turned my business into chaos, into totally spread out, too thin, trying to do too many different things with too many different people. And it was in actually, and working with you massively helped me do this. It sort of like consolidated the journey I was on into, and it seamlessly brings into my next question, which is it forced me to create something that you call the written proposal. And that was, for me, a real game changer. It allowed me to myself see for the first time what I do, who I do it for, and what results they get. So maybe we can explore that. Tell us about the written proposal and what it means to you, and why do you use it?
And well, firstly, so many businesses don't have one. And what a written proposal is a bit like going to a good restaurant that's got a decent menu. And again, you think about the best restaurants, they've got the simplest menus. You think about the worst restaurants, they've got billions of different options. And straight away, you're like, there's no way this chef can cook a world-class Chateaubriand and also do like egg on toast. Like, it's like, seriously, am I in an egg on toast restaurant or Chateaubriand? And I think, you know, if you think about the best restaurant, you walk in there and let's say you go to a steak restaurant, you don't need the server to go through every last single minute thing that's going to happen with that piece of meat, where it came from, how it's going to be cooked. Like, you never say, oh, by the way, could you send me the chef's CV and break down exactly why I should let him cook my dinner for me? You know, like, you don't get into that detail. But if you look at the menu, it will say, you know, it will say something like Scottish Highland reared world-class beef. And just those few little statements as the reader, you kind of create a vision very quickly, and all the complexities that must have gone to the farmer and his family, the feed, like the early mornings, the machinery, like none of that's on the menu. Like, that detail's not on the menu. Just those few words, you can imagine it being hand-reared in Scotland, in Aberdeenshire, on an amazing, like, world-class family farm. You can imagine it just with just a few words and a visual. And this is the thing, our brains are so powerful. We can take something so complex and understand it straight away, just with one look, with 1 second, with one visualization. We can see it for ourselves. And I think what the written proposal does, and the reason why I created it was to take something complex, which for us was design, supply, and installation of somebody's bathroom, and all the complexities of things that are behind walls, that, you know, plumbing that was put there 40 years ago that we can't see until we rip the wall down. Is to take all the complexities of 10 different taps and 5 different bathways and 1,000 different toilets, take all the complexities out of the initial discussions and to get a feel for it. That's what it's designed for. It's to eliminate what we don't want to talk about, to hone in on what we do want to talk about, to get a feel for fees and prices and quality and where it was from and origin, just things in summary that can take all the complexity out and get both parties asking questions, stimulating conversation, till eventually there's no questions left, and then you can exchange the contracts. So the whole point of a written proposal is to take all the complexities out of it and to really get a feel for what both parties are trying to achieve in the early stages. It just gets rid of having to explain everything in great detail to somebody who doesn't understand anyway. I'll give you one more example of this, like a brain surgeon. Can you imagine the complexities of a brain surgeon? Like, you don't say to the surgeon, my brother had a brain tumor removed 3 years ago this week and survived. And the surgeon had actually operated on my uncle previously, who sadly didn't survive, and my brother did. So in both of those operations, one was fatal, one wasn't. There will be fundamentals that the surgeon has to do. And I'm not a brain surgeon, but I'm guessing you have to do a scan. I'm guessing you have to test things. You have to do blood results. I'm guessing you have to make an incision somewhere. I'm guessing you have to, like, there's things that, whether it's this one or this one, that you have to do. They're foundational fundamentals. Now, the intricacies and the minutiae in between the foundations and the fundamentals, they're going to be different every time. And how I teach selling is the same. And it's the written proposal acts as a sort of tool or a guide. So rather than having to explain all the nuances and the intricacies and the differences, which is what salespeople do, they pitch you and they explain everything and they're over speaking and they don't listen and all this kind of stuff. What this does is it just slow. I don't even know what this is. It's on my desk.
I hope that's not your written proposal, Matt.
Yeah.
For anyone on the podcast, it's just a plastic folder with some rough scraps of paper in.
But it acts the same as a menu in a restaurant. It's like, what steaks have you got?
Yeah.
Well, look, rattle off every single steak and where they're all from. There's the menu. What question? Which one do you like? Chateaubriand. What questions have you got? Where's it from? Aberdeenshire. Great. What else do you need to know? Well, how do you want it cooked? Well, there's 4 options. Which one do you want? There's medium, rare. That one, right? Which sauce do you want? What options have you got? Them 4. Which one do you like? What's the difference? There's a little statement in there. Béarnaise is specifically designed for meat that goes with it. Mustard is specifically like, it's all there. Read it. So I think when I realised that tool, something in writing, a document, that when I realised you could bring that into play in the early stages, and then it would get rid of nearly all time wasters. It would get rid of stupid questions at the end. It would stimulate obvious questions at the beginning, that it would stimulate questions around obstacles, price, decision makers. Like, you can take all the objections that you normally get and put them into your written proposal and stimulate that conversation early on. And the results are literally life-changing. It's hard to describe, isn't it? Like, when you can show somebody and not tell someone, you can save yourself hours and hours and months. In some cases, it saved us months of going out to people's houses, breaking things down, sending a long tender email. It's like, it saves you so much time. And again, for me, Steve, the thing that I find really challenging with this, not challenging, it's exciting really for me, but just how few sales training businesses teach this. It's to me, it doesn't make sense.
No, having adopted this into my business, like, I can tell you firsthand that my experience has been, well, actually, so before I did this, I actually was on a call. I got a fairly high ticket coaching program, so it's something that I ended up over explaining. This is what you're going to get. This is the options, blah, blah, blah. And often people be just sat there looking like a deer in headlights. Or, like happened in this particular example, they said, great, can you send me something in writing and I'll get back to you? And obviously it's a stall or whatever. And so, but I actually at the time said, I don't really have anything. I just normally do it on a checkout on a page. Like, and I felt at that moment, I felt like it's so unprofessional.
Yeah.
I felt like this person, like, whether or not they would have bought or not is irrelevant. The point is that I felt like I was totally unable to give them something which actually is fundamental. Like, it's fundamentally like, if you want to buy something, you want to see what you're going to get. Like, and it's just so
at least a bloody good summary of it.
Yeah, something or whatever. And so when I actually came onto training, and then he had this the structure of how you put one of these together, and now we bring it into our sales and closing process. What it's allowed me to do, and again, just totally in line with what you teach, is that in inverted commas sales call is really me exploring exactly what you described earlier. It's me exploring what the person's challenge is, what their vision of the future of success is, and for me to make a decision if I can help them get there using my existing processes, systems, courses, whatever I do.
Having to go away and create something new every time.
And then if it is a good fit, I don't need to then spend another half an hour on this call explaining how it all works and what they're going to get. I just say, here's my written proposal. I'll bring it up on the screen. Here's my written proposal. You can look at this in your own time. Here's the pricing of it. Here's the fees. What questions have you got for me right now? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is nothing at the moment. I'll go away and look at it. And then on our follow-up call, I'll come back with more questions. The 1 out of 10 is the one that buys, it's, and they just go, don't worry, I don't need to see that now. But it adds a level of professionalism, adds some of authority that you say, I've gone to the bother of creating something that I'm going to give you or send you via email, mine's a digital one, send you, that you can go away in your own time, and you've got evidence then of what we've talked about, what the pricing is, all the rest of it. And that is enough to tip a lot of people just over that edge to go, yeah, this guy is obviously professional, knows what he's doing. He's done it before.
There you go. This guy's not making it. It's like when people go, somebody said to me recently, would you go away and come up with a few ideas? I said, I'll leave it, thanks. I'm like, what? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
If you want to pay me for it, yeah, of course, that's called my consultation service, but I am not going to go away without having a detailed, intricate understanding of your existing sales process, what works, what doesn't, and come up with some ideas about what I think your company should be doing, and then drop it over to you for free on an email for you then to tell me you're going to put me on file and get back to me in a few months. I'll leave it, thanks. Like, it's madness, isn't it? When you think about it, it's going shopping and filling up your trolley and saying, so just to be clear, I'm going to go home and eat all of this. And if I like it all, I think I might come back next week and pay. Like, you get arrested if you did that here in the UK. So look, I think it's a self-worth thing. It's a process thing. But I do think you're right. You touched on it. What I've noticed is the more professional the salespeople are, even if they're not classed as salespeople, I'll give you an example of that in a minute, the more professional experience you get when you're looking to buy, the better the quality of the communication, because communication's dying. And then you show up and you actually can communicate, and they're like, oh, that's attractive. I'm dealing with somebody in this organization who can ask questions and answer questions and present things in an order and sequence way. Wow, like, it's attractive. So I think when you upskill yourself, your team, your people, to simply take an incoming, inbound, qualified opportunity and take them through some simple steps and have some good questions and not explain everything in great detail and show the other person a bit of respect. Like, that in itself is, for a buyer, like, it creates lots of little green ticks, lots of little buying signals, warm feelings about what it would be like to work with you. So yeah, I think, look, being confident, structured, focused, organized, all of these things should not be underestimated in professional salespeople. And I just want to give you a quick example. So if you go to a restaurant, I've got my wife and 2 kids. We love, at least once a week, we try on a bit of dinner together. No phones, no mobiles, no iPads, just the 4 of us. My girls are 10 and 14. And we've got a few little places that we love to go to. One place in particular, which is our family favourite, the food is an 8.5 every time out of 10. 8.5 out of 10 every time. The service is a 10 every time. The service is magnificent. And that even includes, we've been going there for many years, it even includes when we have a sort of not great one, which is very rare, but we might have a 7 out of 10 meal, but the way they deal with it, like, if you didn't enjoy that, it's on the house, we'll give you this, we'll do that. They do all the right things. So the service is 10. Now, there's another place where the food is like, oh, it's a 9.5, nearly a 10 every time. The service is a 7. And which one do you think the kids want to go back to every time? The first one. Because when we buy things, and in this case, we're buying food or service in a restaurant, 80% of that purchase is how it makes us feel. It's emotional. It's how we feel inside when we're experiencing the service that really matters. And I think it's smart, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this, to never forget that.
Absolutely. I think it's a brilliant place to, unfortunately, have to draw this to a close as well. But I will just add that thinking about that process that you talked about then, about being professional, being consistent, about meeting expectations and exceeding them, because everyone has preconceived expectations of what it's going to be like, and if you exceed them, that's fantastic. And for me, being a systems guy, I've systemized this quite a lot now since working with you, and little things like the number of updates they get about our meetings, about the fact that we send a little video message, or I send a video message actually if someone books a call with me to prep them before the call, and all these little touches have massively increased conversion rates. And it's not been much work as such. It's just about doing it consistently every time. And actually, from my systems perspective, once you've systemized the process, you then have a baseline that you can improve from and tweak things and know if it's getting better or worse when you make a change. And that has been, for me, applying everything that I learned with you, bringing it into a very formalized, systemized method, not everything, the details, as you say, you want the process, not the detail always. But that has allowed me to then sort of take my sales to the next level. It's been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'll close by just saying, look, if anyone's listening to this is just what Matt does is really exceptional. And if for a really good starting place for 10, check out Matt's book, Open with the Close. It was an eye opener to me, and it made me realize that sales doesn't have to be salesy and sleazy or dark or dirty, all that. And it suddenly I was listening to someone talk about sales in a way that I could relate to, and then obviously the rest is history. But yeah, so Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on. I really
Thank you for your kind words. And look, one thing I'd just say to wrap up from my end is you are meant to be easy to buy from. And I think for anybody listening to this, it's just worth asking yourself, just for a moment, like, if you were going to buy from yourself right now, what would the experience be like? And as it is now, what kind of process have you got in place? Because hope's not a strategy. Winging it is not a strategy. If you could just put some simple things in place so that when somebody does move towards you, you can give them a nice experience, do it in a way that's aligned with your own personal values and makes you feel comfortable and in service. Like, then I would strongly urge you to do that work. And lastly on this, I always say, what kind of buying experience would you need to get if you were buying off yourself for it to be graceful, elegant, and effortless? And whatever the answer to that is, like, get on and create it as soon as you can.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask you one question before we go, Matt. The title of this podcast is Systemize Your Success, but what does success mean to you?
Great question. Well, I think it's multiple things, actually. So I have 6 areas of my life that I am focused on a day-to-day basis. So being successful in my business is when we're developing people. And then I've got 5 key areas, which is loving other people, being a loving human being, and demonstrating that on a day-to-day basis. Being an ambassador for nature and getting involved with making sure that our planet has still got animals on it when I'm gone. Serving other people is really important. Being a teacher and sharing what I know. And lastly, being a devoted husband and father. That's what success looks like for me.
Fantastic. Great answer. Matt, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, mate.